let's just talk the hobby a little bit. What are some of your thoughts on maybe the next 6 to 18 months in the hobby? What do you see? How do you see the hobby changing, growing? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, there's so many things that I've been thinking about. So 6 months is like what the end of the year, and
Hmm.
then maybe like next year today.
Hmm.
We're like you everybody knows inflation is high and we're coming into a recession. So I think cards are definitely gonna take a hit as far as values. So I really hope that people didn't over leverage themselves because that's when people start panic selling and all that stuff, and it's only going to continue to get worse and worse if we do that. I believe that we're a lot more educated than the crash, quote unquote, which really wasn't a crash, but it was a correction that was happening last summer. I
Yes.
think it's going to continue to go down right now, but the important thing is to just, you know, how do I say this? Like hold your cards that you believe in. You know, if you need the cash, sell the cards that you don't believe in anymore at whatever price they're set at right now. You know, don't get caught holding on to things that you don't like because you're waiting for them to go back up, because I don't believe that's going to happen anytime soon.
Hmm.
And we're going to see a shift in the whole the whole flip game, short-term flip game, and we're going to see more collectors and long-term investors. I have a hard time differentiating between like what a long-term investor is versus a collector, because to me, if you're gonna buy a card to hold it long term, you're a collector in my eyes, right? Or what do you
I
think?
think so. I think so.
You're
I think there's
you're
a fine line
curating a
between
collection.
a lot of these, I guess, labels of what one's participation is. Because I always say you could walk into a show, and if you walk into a show and you've been holding a card for over 2 years, what are you? Then you may
Mhm,
go into that show and want to move that card or trade that card to pull something else into your PC. So then what hat do you put on then?
mhm,
I think a lot of us
mhm.
are probably different things at different times, all depending on the situation, um, and what's going on. Like, what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve, and in what time frame?
Me,
No, I'm just saying if
as far
someone,
as my collection, or
I'm just saying if someone is being
oh,
active in
okay,
the,
yeah.
they may have different hats on at different points in time.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't, and I think we're gonna keep moving away from the short-term flip game, which is also fun. Don't get me wrong, but you know, you can also make plays that you just remember that sometimes those high yielding short-term flips, it's a lot of luck involved with those. Like
That's true.
you pretty much time the market, and you have to remember that if you did, it was pretty lucky. And
That's
your
that
play should
definitely.
be more. Because don't get me wrong, I've had those short-term flips where I was like, wow, I made a lot of money in 2 week time, but it's again just luck,
Mm-hmm.
because no one's gonna know if Tatum's gonna drop 80 tonight, and oh, I should have bought more Tatum. No, you can't predict that.
That's true. That is true. You don't know
On
who's going to get
Curry, I
hurt.
should
Yeah, you don't know what's going to
exactly.
happen with players. Just gotta. I kind of look at some factors as far as what I see of them on the court or the field or what they're doing, and then I try to learn more about their work ethic. Do they work out? What do they do? And then go from there. But it's all a chance. It's about how much risk are you willing to take on sometimes.
Exactly. And I think we need to teach that more. And when we start going away from that, trying to time the market stuff, and then focus more on, like you said, the players that you like, you learn more about them, their work ethic, what have they done outside of sports. You know, that's one reason why I love collecting Kershaw and Shaq. They've done
Hmm.
so much for outside of sports too. And then just because we're like, like I said, if you're a long-term investor creating a collection that maybe in the future you can sell off and pay for something, you're looking for those like legacy type players that people are going to want to collect years down the road. So who
Yes,
are those? Who are going to be those big figures that made an impact on the game changed it and all that. So that's why LeBron is such a good buy right now too.
And hit a
I
lot
don't
of his
think
cards.
after it's all said and done, yeah.
A lot of his cards are very liquid as well. If you want to make a move to another LeBron card or to another person that you're interested in.
And I think when it's all said and done, even though he has a lot of haters and stuff right now, I think people forget a lot of the times that Kobe wasn't that well liked at some parts in his career. So, but when it's all said and done, you're not going to be able to deny the impact he had.
True. That is true.
Because I remember it's kind of like growing up, it was like either you're on Team Shaq or Team Kobe. And it was
Yeah,
always
it
like,
was
oh,
like
Kobe's a ball. Yeah.
it was like that. Even being in Chicago at the time or in the Midwest, I kind of knew that. Yeah, and I think the team
Yeah,
was somewhat divided too. I think the Lakers were divided like that.
Yeah, they didn't get along. They didn't get along until they were both retired. So
You got to think about this, right? Now I think about stuff sometimes. Shaq comes in to the Lakers. He's the dominating player in the NBA.
mhm.
Right? He's the man. Kobe tells him at 17, I'm gonna be the GOAT. Already, that's like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
Pretty sure Shaq was like, whatever, man. What are you talking about? And then Shaq didn't want to work out. Kobe was working out all the time. They just had differences. And a lot of times with differences, right? You hope that the teams can overlook or the players can overlook their differences. We talk about music, like there have been different bands over time that talk about the Beatles. Paul McCartney and Lennon, they had some differences. They wanted to write different music. They wanted to do different things. How do you overcome that? Because greatness is out there if you can overcome that. Longevity is out there if you can overcome that. It's hard for human nature.
I agree. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Just think if Shaq and Kobe stayed together. I mean, the NBA is different. History is different. Those guys would have done a lot. And I think when they got apart, and one went to Miami and one stayed with the Lakers, and then when Kobe had to get Paul Gasol to get some energy in him, you start realizing, then he played with Dwight Howard. Man, I should stay with Shaq. Sometimes it's like that. Pancake Analytics says, in my opinion, collectors become accidental investors and love what you collect. Says she agrees with. I can see that.
Yeah, like anybody that kept their Pokemon stuff, right? Who knew?
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff like who knew that was ever gonna.
I would have never known that. If you could go back in time, it'd be something in 98. Pokemon wasn't even on my radar. That was like something that the generation before me I thought would be involved in. That wasn't the case. A lot of times it's not how things start, it's how they begin to go over time. There are some cards, there are some players, we're talking about sports, there are some cards that were very well sought after 20 years ago. They're not really sought after right now.
And if you think about it, which is something that I think about a lot, and it's really crazy, is that with the impact that Pokemon has had so far with the newer stuff, if you think about it progressing the same rate as the old stuff is, it's still pretty undervalued too. So I think there's a lot that you can do if you hold on to Pokemon long term too right now.
Yep, I can see that. Yeah.
We have so many kids that are still falling in love with Pokemon every day. So they have a big brand.
Most definitely they do. I don't know. It's hard to talk to someone if you say Pokemon, they don't know what you're talking about.
It's hard for me too, like the new stuff, but that's something I also want to spend some more time on learning more about.
Feed the God says, one thing I learned from FD, if I taught anything, I'm humbled. For quite a while, I have to do the research. I'm a collector at heart, but I think I won't lose if I have the mind of a flipper. Looking for the best of what I love. I'm a big proponent of doing research and being patient. To me, those two things can carry you a long way in the hobby. You know, you really don't have to
Mm.
rush anything. If there's a card you think you missed out on, some kind of way, you're probably going to see that card or something equivalent at some point in your collecting career. That it's not. At least I know me personally. I don't feel like it's ever a rush. Like I have to do this right now. Things will be there. Sin City said,
Mhm.
"What's up, Mama Breaks? What's up, Sin City?"
What's up, Sin City?
Pancake Analytics says that's a great point. Life skills through the card shows. My father took me to Comic Cons to teach me how to come out of my shell. Great experience at a young age. It
Mhm.
is.
If anybody ever asked me for advice in anything, I tell them I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for reading. I read. I'm always reading something. And again, not to like be super overly annoying with this stuff, but just read things that you enjoy.
It's
Like
true.
you can learn something from anything. I enjoy reading a lot of those what like sort of psychological self-help
Mhm.
stuff. That's the
Yes.
stuff that I enjoy and find interesting. So I'm constantly reading things like that. And then every now and then I'll throw in something that I think would help me with my business, like the science of selling, how to close a sale, and things like that. And then I'll read a Dodgers history book or an autobiography or something like that. So mhm. Read.
That's a
I feel like
very cool attribute. Always willing to learn something. I think that's important. No matter how old we are, there's something more for us to learn.
absolutely. Always be a student of everything. And again, I'm gonna sound like a teacher so bad, but sorry, forgive me. Reading doesn't have to be like a physical thing that you do and take time for. Because I'm very, understanding of the new era, right? We enjoy watching short clips of stuff. Like, so our attention spans are very short. And it's really hard for me, even who I've loved to read my whole life, for me to be able to sit down for 30 minutes and read a book has not been that easy for me. I'll
Hmm.
fall asleep, I'll get distracted with um, but just put audiobooks on your drive to work, on your drive back. If you're folding laundry, if you're washing the dishes, just put an audiobook on. I guarantee you that you will feel an enhancement in your life. If working out is something that you do, instead of listening to, I don't know, whatever music you listen to an audiobook.
A sound device.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like hobby advice or anything. Oh, Mint Condition is a really good book for hobbyists out there, actually. That's opened my mind a lot about the hobby when I read it earlier this year.
Okay.
Mint Condition. I forgot who the author was, but I don't know if you read the Trading Cards Are Cool Again by Josh Luber.
No, I didn't read it, but I've talked to people
That's
who have.
actually, yeah, a PDF that he has on there, and I read most of that, and he cites that book a lot.
Okay.
Mint Condition by because
I
he
know that
essentially talks about the history of trading cards and why. One of the most eye-opening parts to me in that book by Dave Jameson, Mint Condition, was that the whole idea of like case hits, he talks about the inception of that. I think is really interesting.
okay.
It's essentially getting people to buy more packs, really.
Oh yeah, it's going to incentivize you too.
Yeah.
But, mhm.
So I guess if you kind of, if you see things more that way, you kind of start understanding that, hey, the value of these cards are really subjective. Like I can form my own opinion on a card, and I'm able to say I don't really like that. I wouldn't value it at that much, and that's okay. You kind of save yourself from FOMO
Perfectly fine.
purchases that way,
Yep. Yep. A lot of times I'll see the
because
price of
I
a car
find myself.
or something going on with a car, and I'll think I need to wait a duration of time before I make a move on anything dealing with that player.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll see a card and I'm like, not to like talk smack or anything. I know a lot of people love it and that's fine, but the Magna, the Maga, those
Oh yeah,
prism
yeah.
inserts, I'm just not a fan of those, and that's
Well, they just came
okay.
out.
Like,
They just came out. They're different. They kind of reach to the color blast and some other stuff, and people are hyped about them. Let's see if people are that hyped in 6 months.
or even 5 years from now. That's what worries me, you know. And
Mhm.
like I get, like I said, if you believe that that's what it's worth right now, then you should be able to make that sound decision. And even though it goes down later, you know, I guess you should always ask yourself that. What would you do if this card went down half price 2 months from now? Would you
That's right.
still enjoy it for the price you bought it at? And if you can
Hmm.
say yes, then you should definitely buy it.
I agree. I
And
tell a
if
story.
you
I told a story before of when LaMelo Ball in basketball first came out. Prism had just came out, and his Prism base out of the pack was $1,500. Now, in 3-4 weeks after that, it already had started dropping. So, and there were people on eBay buying and selling these cars.
Mhm.
So you just got to ask yourself, and I think when you've been in the hobby long enough, you know when cars first come out, there's going to be kind of a hype. You know, there are layers to the price of a card. Hype is a layer of the price of a card. So if you let that
Absolutely.
hype wear off, let that hype go, be patient a little bit, then you'll actually see and let the player play. Let us see what this player is going to do. Then you'll probably see what the real market value is.
And you can make plays on the reverse that way. Like I said,
That's
if you start thinking of things in a subjective way and say, hey, you know, this value is only what it is to a certain person, you can find stuff that are undervalued now that
yes,
later are going to go up because you had the wherewithal, you had your own, you trusted your own instinct and your own knowledge and your own gut to be like, hey, this should not be as cheap or the price that it is. For
that's right.
example, again, it's all speculation in the end. You're taking risks, but I bought a Devontae Adams Bowman Chrome Gold rookie.
Mm-hmm.
I
I'll
believe
see
it's
your card. I saw your
yeah,
card on Instagram. Yeah.
out of 50, and I got it for $80.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, I want to say Devontae Adams is top two wide
Yeah,
receiver in the league right now,
he's up there right now. Yeah.
arguably number one. And for
Mm-hmm.
me to be able to get the gold, which is, you know, the surface isn't that great, but sharp corners, sharp edges, all that gold
Do
rookie,
you know, well, you know why I think you're getting that card at that price? Because
because it's
everybody's chasing Herbert and Burrow.
exactly it's it. But there's, I mean, we can talk about that on another show, like how to make eBay plays, because I'm pretty good at that.
Mm-hmm.
But just there was 18 bids on that card. So out of 18 people, I was the only one that thought that was worth $80. My
Mm-hmm.
highest bid was 150 because I'm thinking if I can get, let's say I can't even name a random rookie in this last year's football class. What's the cheapest gold rookie you can get out of Prism right now? It's probably $80 just because Prism's out
Probably.
right now. So I'm getting, I can't think of them too much, but you know what I'm saying? Like I just think $80 for a proven player that you can argue is the best at their position in the league for $80 is, and out of 18 people, I was the one that thought it was worth that because I think you can make plays like that. If you, like you said, if you're patient, if you do your research, you trust yourself.
Yes. Trust
More
yourself and believe in the work that you've put in and where you think the market is going. Because you may talk to somebody like, oh, I don't see that, but you could still be right.
yeah, exactly. Somebody can be like, no, Stephanie, you overpaid for that, you know? And I'm like, well, that's you think, but I don't think so.
I don't think
I
so.
think he has one good game and that's gonna double if I
Mm.
put it up, you know?